Hi, I'm Daniel Lucas, and welcome to Book 101 Review. Book 101 is all about the books that I read for the last 40 years, and today I have my special guest. She is the author of several children's books, no other than Miss Diane Floyd Bam.
Hi.
Welcome to Book 101, Miss Diane, and can you please introduce more about yourself?
Sure, I'd be happy to. First of all, thank you so much for having me. Um, so my background is actually education. I've always been a storyteller, and I've just taken my stories that were oral and put them down to book print. Some fun things about me is I've lived in several countries. I lived in the Philippines for 3 years, and I performed at the National Theater. I lived in Dubai for 14 years and was able to travel all over the place, as Dubai is a great hub. And I do a lot of humanitarian work. So there's a sound bite for you.
Yes, Miss Diane Floyd Bam, thank you so much for sharing your children's book to the world. So, what are the key elements of successful children's book?
I think, great question. I think one of the most important things is when you're starting to write is to know your audience, who it is that you want to write your story for, and your purpose. So for me, because I've always basically taught preschool and elementary within the classroom, I'm very comfortable there, and I understand their minds, and I enjoy that age because I'm a big kid myself, and to know your purpose. So for me, I'm all about embrace imagination, and I write books in a positive spirit, to love yourself, to be kind to others. They might be different from you, but they could be your very best friend. So kindness, love, um, that's where I come from.
Yes, definitely interesting. Miss Diane, so how do different age groups, such as toddlers, early readers, middle grade, affect writing style and content?
Boy, you're right on the money with questions. Um, Vocabulary, I believe, is the key. You do not want to write vocabulary that's so high up that the young children cannot relate to that vocabulary word. The younger they are, the more simple the words should be, and um, and then you can go from there. So that's how I address it
Certain.
anyway.
So, what are the most common themes in children's literature and why do they resonate with young readers?
I think curiosity is one for sure. And children absolutely love space. They just think it's fascinating. And also, children love things about that they can relate to. So, for example, children sometimes have nightmares. So, those wonderful books about a nightmare under my bed, a monster under my bed. Excuse me, that's not mine, but it's a wonderful book I read to my children and also in my classroom. Kids relate to that because they're like, "Oh, I've had that feeling before," and "Oh, okay, everything's going to be okay." And so writing to something that they can relate to is important. When we also want to write things that kids might be learning about, for instance, what makes day? What makes night? Why does the sun come out? And then all of a sudden it goes away and there's the moon. Simple things like that, that we as adults think are simple, that's a hard concept for young children. And so it's always fun to write things about that too.
Certainly. And how important is a moral or lesson in a children's book?
Mm. For me, it's very important. So I like to think of my books as multilinear because I'm a true believer that children's books are for adults too. We might be writing for one purpose about being kind to yourself or kind to others, books about family and ancestry. And the kids are gonna see it in one level, like, "Oh my gosh, do I have a great grandpa?" And it's gonna spark the adults into sharing about their, family history, and I've gotten great, comments about that and saying thank you. Other things is, for kids to learn that it's wonderful that there's so many different types of people in the world, and to embrace that friendship and to learn from one another.
Very well said, Miss Diane. Very well said. And what are some common mistakes new authors make when writing for children?
Some of the common mistakes and things I had to learn too, because I didn't like study how to be an author. If you would have told me in high school that I was going to be a published author, I would have like that's really funny because it would not have entered my mind. But I'm so grateful I am now. And I think one of the things sometimes we make a mistake is not understanding some of the rules. There's actual rules that you can look up, how many pages it takes to be a children's author, what grade level are you going for? Then check your vocabulary. Did you meet that grade level? Are you too high for it? And make those adjustments. For me personally, when I go to purchase a book, I really cannot stand children's books that the pages have much writing on it and tons of different illustrations. I find it way too busy. Now, a lot of authors enjoy that, but for me personally, I go for the more simple look.
Simple but easy to understand.
Easy to understand. That's right.
So, Miss Diane, how do you come up with engaging story ideas that appeal to children?
Thank you. Um, Well, sometimes I'm out in the garden working and I'll be thinking of ideas and have been, percolating different thoughts for a while. And then all of a sudden in the garden, it'll just come to me what I need to write about and how to make it happen. Sometimes it happens to me in the middle of the night and I'll go, "Oh, yes, yes, I'll remember. That's a great idea." And then the angel will go, "Wake up. You need to write it down." I'm like, "No, no, no, I'll remember. You need to wake up now and write it down, or I'm gonna give it to someone else." And so then I get up and write it.
Right now. Do it now. So, what
Right.
are the essential components of strong plot in a children's book?
Okay, could I missed the second word. What's the
What
component?
Yeah, what are the essential components of a strong plot?
Well, again, it goes back to the purpose. So let's just take, for example, um, I have so many fun books that I've written, but I'll take Boomer the Curious Bunny because he's my most recent, and I'll be coming out with 3 more books soon.
Mhm.
And the purpose of Boomer is for the kids to relate to curiosity because kids are very curious. And so, where is Boomer going? In the very first book, Boomer Sees the Town, the purpose of that particular book is that I want children to learn recall. What did you learn? Because it's a very important skill to remember what you've learned. And so, Boomer goes down a path and he has all these different experiences, but he ends up in a town and he's always been in the forest, like, oh my gosh, what's just happened to my world? But he's just so excited about everything that he's learned. And then all of a sudden, he sees a bird and he's like, I'm missing home. How am I going to get back home? And so he goes, okay, what did I see last? And he works backwards. And so what's really fun is when I'm in school and I read it to the kiddos, they help me recall. And so the school teacher in me comes out because I just don't tell them. I go, "What do you think happened next?" And I love that. And they're so excited when they get all the way back home. And it's a fun experience for parents and a loved one to have when they're reading with their kiddo.
Definitely. Interesting. Boomer, the Curious Bunny. So, how can writers make their stories both entertaining and educational?
Good question. Again, I'll go back to the purpose. What is the purpose of the story? And that's where you might get educational in it. So let's take Charlie and the tire swing. The things that I wanted to bring out in the tire swing was patience. And we can learn patience through just watching an acorn grow into a giant tree. And so Charlie hears the story from his grandpa how that tree that's so big came to be. And within that, he's also learning about his family history. And so Charlie learns about his great grandpa and grandma. And so again, that sparks conversation outside of the story itself with the loved one of who are my great grandparents. And so that had like several purposes because they're going to learn through the seasons, they're going to learn about family history, and they're going to learn about patience.
Certainly. So, what are effective ways to create a memorable and relatable main characters for kids?
Well, first of all, you as an author have to love your main character that you've chosen to have. So for Boomer, for example, I picked a bunny because I think bunnies. I love bunnies, and I had a bunny in my classroom when I was teaching fourth grade in the Philippines. The cutest little white bunny ever, and and so I just really wanted to use a bunny for the main character there. If you love raccoons, and maybe you're going to write about and have it to be a raccoon, um, or maybe it's going to be a child. You have to decide in your heart and soul what it is that's going to that character that's going to make your purpose of the story come alive, and have it be a character that that children are going to relate to, grandmas, grandpas, um, bunnies. Kids love bears. I mean, bears have won all kinds of awards. So
Certainly. So, how do you balance simplicity and creativity when writing a story for young readers?
I really don't think about it. There's several types of authors. I'm the kind of author that once I know my purpose and I know my character, I sit down and I start writing the story. And it it's just, I like to think of it as a piece of clay. I just have a giant piece of clay, and that's that first edit. And then I go back, and then I start reading it and molding it just like you would with a piece of clay until a story is completed. And that's kind of how I look at everything. Within it, as I'm editing it, I will ask myself, is that really a great word to use? Is there a simpler word, or maybe it's too simplistic? Am I using words, repeating myself too much, which is a common mistake I make? And so then I go back in and I'll edit things like that until that lump of clay turns into a beautiful story.
Interns to become a magic for children.
Mhm.
So, Miss Diane, what would be your advice for those people out there want to write their first children's book?
My advice again would be something that I've stated before, which is pick your purpose. Select the age you want to write to. Is it preschoolers? Is it kinder, first, second, and third grade? And then write the story in such a way that they can relate to it. And I know you can succeed doing that. If you believe in it, it will happen.
Yes. And stop procrastinating, people. If you have the passion to write children's book, go, go, go and share to the world because children need it to empower them to become better. So, Ms. Dayan, what will be your short-term and long-term goals in writing children's book?
My short time goal is to get these next three books out. my longtime goal is I would love to see a couple of these, like Boomer, for example, to be a great cartoon of inspiration for young children. I just really would love that.
Hmm. Good
I
luck to
think
your
every
goal.
kid should go to sleep with Boomer hugging them.
Good luck to your goal, Miss Diane. So, how can a writer adapt their tone and vocabulary to suit a child's reading level?
Another good question. I use I'm so comfortable writing for kids, it comes naturally to me. For those people who are first-time writers and you haven't really been around kids, I would encourage you to contact with some people at different schools and see if you can come and observe and just get a feel for the rhythm of how kids talk, what kids are interested in. And mark my word, when you do that, you're going to have some of your own memories, and stories are going to come to you based on your own recall as a child. And you're going to walk away so excited. When you do write your story, don't think about, well, that first sentence has to be perfect. No, it does not. Just write. Because when you finish the story, like I said, you're going to redo it. And I use this writing tool called Pro Writing Aid. And what I
Mhm.
like about that one is that it will tell me my reading level for the kiddos, and that makes sure that I stay spot on.
Definitely. So, what role does rhyme and rhythm play in a picture books?
Well, I wish I had that talent that every sentence, is gonna rhyme with the next sentence. That's such a gift. So, if any of you listeners are out there and you're, like, really good with rhyming, please, we need more children's books with that rhyming.
Yes.
The rhyme and rhythm, I think of it in a way, again, by listening to young children speak, you will pick up it. It's just a natural flair. Another thing you can do is go onto YouTube, or maybe you have some old CDs or tapes or whatever your your age group is that has your music, and see if you have any of kids' songs. And if you don't, go to YouTube because there's some really great songs, and you can listen to it, kids, because that'll give you a rhythm of your own to develop. So, like for example, there's this song "Skidamarink Dink a Dink." Do you know that one?
No, sorry.
It's it's, Canadian singers who sing it, and they write for children, and, my kids were just,
Love it.
spellbounded by them, and we saw them in person, actually, but it's "Skidamarink-a-dink-a-dink, skidamarink-a-doo, I love you." And there you have a rhythm of wonderful books, Boomer the Curious Bunny.
What a golden voice, Miss Diane. Thank you for sharing your voice to us. So, what techniques can writers use to keep children's attention throughout the story?
Mm. Again, what is it the character's doing? Does that character hold your own attention? If the character doesn't hold your own attention, then you need to go back to an edit. And that's, easy to happen. And I've had to rewrite too. And one of the things that I do whenever I can is I actually will take a story, and I take it to a variety of schools, and they let me test it. And the kiddos, I can tell if they're squirming, or or I'll ask them questions, and they will actually help me with a rewrite, because what do kids do best? They tell the truth.
True. They're honest. So, how do illustrations influence the writing process in picture books?
Illustrations are huge to me. Matter of fact, when I go, because as you can tell, there's lots of books right behind me, and this is, you're in my storybook, um, children's garden, and so I have books from all different ages and so forth, and I still purchase children's books today. But when I look at them, I first look at the illustrations. If the illustrations don't grab me, I don't even bother to read the story. Illustrations to me are so important. And the type of illustrations depends on the story itself. So, um, Charlie and the Tire Swing, I wanted it to be very realistic looking, where in Boomer the Curious Bunny, it's more playful and the comics and everything. Harry the Camel, he's very simple. I wanted the camel to be very simple and loving so that the kids would just want to grab that camel right away. So illustrations are very, very important.
Certainly. And what are the key differences between traditional or self-publishing for children's books?
So, if I understand correctly, there's several types of ways you can publish. There's hybrid publishing, where you've written the story and you want to get it published, but you pay someone to um, to publish that book, and they do everything. They produce the book, they some of them get the illustrator for you, and all you had to do was turn the story over to them and pay a certain amount so that you can get that book published. Self-publishing, generally you're doing all of the hard work, and for some people in self-publishing you even produce the book yourself. And then there's traditional publishing, where you get to turn in the story and you get a lot of no's, but then eventually you get this yes, which is so exciting. And they do it all.
Yes.
Yay!
They do it by them, and then you're just sitting there, and your problem is how to market it.
That is the hardest thing of all. And I've even wrote an article about that and I call it the beast because Um, that was probably so naive of me to not realize, the home marketing thing. Yes, you could get your book out. Yes, it could actually be in, Barnes& and Noble or a traditional bookstore, but it doesn't mean it's gonna sell. If it doesn't sell in the bookstore, they ship them back. And
Yes.
so that's an ouch. And the other thing is you have to be willing to go to conferences, do the social media, spend a lot. You'll spend more time on that social media than you did the whole time that you wrote that story.
Creating the book.
Yeah.
So, Miss Diane, how important are book reviews and awards in children's book industry?
Well, a lot of authors have different opinions on that. So this is my personal opinion. I do believe book reviews are very important. I believe that parents are a reader is going to look to see how people have responded to that book. It's hard to come by money these days. Things are very expensive. And so if you're going to actually purchase, especially a hardcover book, because I'm such a believer in the hardcovers, they last longer. Hence, I have books in here from the 1800s that are hard copy, and they lasted because they were not just paper. Um, that you you read those reviews, and if they come out really, you know, not necessarily a 3-star review is very good too. By the way, is people's opinion. So I have to say 3, 4, and 5 stars. You're doing very well, and most likely someone's going to purchase that book. Um, you had asked about something else besides the review.
Yes, and awards.
And awards, that's right, sorry. Awards. I do like to do awards. I think they're fun. It's another great way to get your book out there in front of people's eyes. And if, you win, you place, that's really good. Um, I like to get, like, the Story Monster awards for my books because Story Monster, you're just being it's just only about your book, and parents know if it has a Story Monster award, that book is good for children, And so that's actually one of my very favorite awards, but I do believe in awards.
So, Miss Diane, before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, Food 101, and it's fifth season, people, fifth season with my co-host, one of the specialty chef in one of the five-star hotel in downtown Toronto, Chef Alessandro Panantoni. So please do listen, Food 101. So, what steps can an author take to ensure their book is diverse and inclusive?
Well, again, it depends on the purpose of your book. Um, I think, for example, the little girl in the moon, she lives on the moon. So she is automatically different. And the purpose of that, again, is to help children realize just because a moonling looks different doesn't mean she can't be your best friend. And therefore, in human terms, the person next to you, just because they're wearing glasses, doesn't mean you're not supposed to like them. They're they're just wearing glasses to help themselves see and go have fun and run around on the playground with them. So that's kind of how I see things.
Definitely. Miss Diane, thank you so much for sharing your children's book to the world. So, can you please invite our listeners to support all your books?
Sure. So the best way to find me is to go to my website, dianefloydbank.com, and all my social media is there, and sign up for my newsletter. And I'm always right there for you. And feel free to email me and ask any questions.
Yes, people, let's support Miss Diane because if you support her more, empowering children's book to come. So, Miss Diane, thank you for your time.
Thank you. See you again.
Morrigan people, see you soon. So, you live in the Philippines for how many years, Miss
For
Diane?
um for